Yo, what's up? Welcome back to another episode of The Sauce. Continuing on with Conference Championship Weekend. I already uploaded the first game from Friday night. This is the second one, Oregon-Washington Pac-12 Championship. Rematch of what was the best game of the conference all year. This line's currently sitting at Washington plus 9.5, almost a double-digit point spread here. Total sitting at 66.5. Let's go.
Welcome to The Sauce. The Sauce. Sauce. Hey, get the sauce.
This one's looking like a pros versus public setup here. Public's definitely taking the points with Washington. Sharp action definitely laying the points with the Ducks. This number was at 9 when it opened. Now I'm seeing nothing but 9.5s. In fact, PointsBet has it at 10, so I'm already seeing a 10 pop up. So let's match these two teams up on the field, and obviously we got to start with the matchup we already saw from these two teams back on October 14th. Washington grabbed the win 36-33, but anyone who watched that game saw that Oregon was probably the better team. The Ducks outgained Washington 541 to 415 in that one. They won the time of possession battle. They won the turnover battle. I mean, the story of that game was really Dan Lanning going for it on 3 different 4th and shorts and getting stopped on all 3. Quarterback battle was pretty even in the game. I think at first glance it may look like Bo Nix outplayed Penix, but it's really not how it went down. Penix threw 4 touchdowns and averaged 8.2 yards per pass attempt compared to 7.7 from Bo Nix. So Michael Penix was actually the more efficient passer in the game. But since that loss to Washington, Bo Nix has been on an absolute warpath. He accounts for 19 total touchdowns in the last 4 games. Oregon 4 dominant wins. Basically, the Ducks have dominated every single game this entire season, with the exception of the Washington game, if we're being honest. Obviously, the main story of this matchup is the discrepancy between these two defenses and the rushing attack, too. We'll talk about that in a second. Oregon can run the ball and Washington can't. But if we were just matching up offense versus offense, Oregon versus Washington, then this would be a coin flip. These offenses are pretty closely matched, but we got to bring the defenses into the mix, and that's really where Washington just doesn't belong in the same conversation as Oregon. Huskies on the season just 41st in effective pass, 120th in passing yards per game allowed. Now, that's probably because they spent so much time up. Other teams were throwing on them a lot. 22nd in yards per pass attempt allowed. And it hasn't been just the big offenses that Washington struggled with. Sure, Caleb Williams had a huge game against Washington. 3 touchdowns, 180 passer rating. It's whatever. It's Caleb Williams. He's an NFL quarterback. He's going to do that. But then you got guys like Ashton Daniels throwing the ball on you. 31 of 48, 367 yards against Washington. Stanford scored 33 points in the game. And by the way, these numbers, they weren't in garbage time. Score of that game was 21-19 with 4 minutes left in the third quarter. It's just really hard to put any faith in Washington's defense against anybody, let alone against an elite program like Oregon. One thing I can say for Washington's defense, though, and if you're betting Washington, this is your angle. This is what you're looking at. Oregon, they haven't been running the ball nearly as well recently. Just 4.25 yards per carry and 7 rushing touchdowns in their last 4 games. In the previous 6, 6.58 yards per carry and 16 touchdowns. So if you're on Washington, you're hoping that this Oregon rushing attack has been slowing down. Here's the thing with numbers like that, though. All 4 of those games were basically blowout wins. I mean, I was just talking about this in the Cowboys-Seahawks game. It's hard to take stats seriously when you're running plays up 42-9 in the third quarter. I mean, not that they should be ignored, but the play calling's different. The whole energy of the game is different. But we do have to point out that Washington did a solid job against the run in that huge road game against Oregon State. Beavers have a top 25 rushing attack, just 148 yards on 3.7 yards per carry. So there's another thing. That's where you're hanging your hat on. If you're on Washington, you think Washington can slow down the Oregon rushing attack. In my opinion, Ducks were able to run the ball efficiently on Washington the first time. 204 yards on the ground, 5.1 yards per carry. That was on the road in Huskyville. This one's on a neutral in a neutral site in Vegas, Allegiant Stadium. Run game should be there for Oregon, if you ask me. On the other side of the ball, we already know what Washington's going to do. They're going to throw the ball because that's what Washington does. They have the best quarterback-wide receiver combination in the FBS. Well, Jaden Daniels and Malik Neighbors would probably have something to say about that. Either the best or the second best, let's say that. Washington throws the ball on over 58% of their snaps on the season, 9th most in the FBS. And these numbers right here, this is probably the biggest reason for the 9.5 point spread in this game. The unstoppable Washington passing attack has really faded in a big way recently. Through the first 8 games, Penix was averaging 400 yards per game, 3.1 touchdowns per game, a 179 passer rating. In the last 4 games, yards per game's way down, touchdowns per game's way down, passer rating's way down. Remember, Washington doesn't have much of a rushing attack. This is a one-dimensional offense. Washington's offense is 15th overall according to BetaRank, 4th in effective pass, 104th in effective rush. Look at the rushing matchup on that side of the ball. Oregon, top 10 run defense, probably top 5 run defense, against Washington, possibly a bottom 30 rushing offense. I know it seems absolutely nuts to lay 9.5 points in this game. The first matchup between these two teams went down to the wire. How can we lay damn near double-digit points? But the truth is, Oregon is 10 points better than Washington. They're by far the more complete team. Remember, Dan Lanning was the Georgia defensive coordinator before getting the Oregon job. This guy's going to come out with a game plan that really puts Penix in some uncomfortable situations. I'm laying the points here. I think Oregon might blow them out, to be honest. So give me the Ducks. Oregon minus 9.5. If you want my top bets, parlays of the day, I'm putting out a big parlay for Friday night. It's going to be a combination of college football and NBA, and I'm putting that on my Instagram story. Someone told me I need to use Instagram more. So I'm putting it on my Instagram story. It's at Kyle Kirms, same as my Twitter. So if you want to see that, it's a parlay. I'll post it right in the story. If you want our top bets for all sports, parlays of the day, or you want to join our Discord, head over to kylekerms.com. The information's right there on the homepage. Let's have a great weekend. Conference championship weekend. NBA's really in the swing of it. NFL, obviously. A lot of action out there. Remember to bet responsibly, and I'll talk to you in the Discord.